Hey, so how can you find some good landlord love in Dubai? And what do I mean by that? Hit it. Okay, welcome back. What do I mean? Essentially speaking, I'm talking about how to find a good landlord who you can love and who will love you back. I mean in a platonic way, where you have a great landlord-tenant relationship. Okay, let's face it, there's a lot of people out there who don't own and they end up renting. A lot of people who move to Dubai and in the first 1 year, maybe 6 months, they don't want to purchase and they want to live in a property, and therefore they're okay having a landlord-tenant relationship. How do you find a landlord whom you can love and really literally say, you know what, I've got the best landlord in this world? Check this out. I'm going to cover 4 things. I'm going to cover the past, I'm going to cover the growth and the evolvement that has happened in the landlord-tenant relationship in the last 5-10 years, for 20 years. Then I'm going to talk about the current situation and a solution for you if you are renting. Okay, this is essentially the past. Okay, this is what happened. Dubai went through wonderful booms in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s. Okay, but let's talk about the 80s and 90s. Okay, there were large, rich entrepreneurs who were in some cases given land by the government to develop buildings, accommodation, to accommodate, that's the right word, all the expats who were coming to Dubai so that they could, essentially speaking, live in these apartments. And for these entrepreneurs, sometimes they were given land for free, sometimes there wasn't. Whatever the case might be, this seemed to be a pretty decent, good business. You know, expats are coming over here, residents are coming into Dubai, to the UAE to work, etc. They need accommodation to work and live. Buildings, apartments, townhouses, villas, obviously in each and every separate category made sense. And it was a good business model. Now, essentially speaking, what was the model though was a very long-term relationship between tenants and landlords, right? Because freehold didn't exist, so these people generally couldn't buy in different parts of the world, parts of Dubai. And generally speaking, what was the norm, or the way that the relationship worked here, is people would live sometimes in the same apartment 5, 10, 20 years. Like, kids would get married from the same apartment, and landlords had these great relationships, or landlords had managers who were running buildings. Like, if a landlord has 20-30 buildings, obviously he generally had a manager and an office team or an admin team that would manage that relationship, and these tenants would have really nice relationships. Most cases, like I would say 90% and above, these relationships would be super awesome, and you know, kids would get married from there, and you know, they'd be very stable relationships. Rent increases were not that crazy, things were pretty normal. Okay, then we came to the freehold growth part. Okay, essentially speaking, from 2003, let's say till 2020, we've got single people owning a lot of apartments or houses in different parts of Dubai. Okay, this essentially speaking is can you see this? Yeah, okay, pretend that you can see it. Okay, this is the boom phase, okay, where single people, because freehold opened up, everybody started coming into Dubai, and then they started making purchases. And obviously, why do you purchase a property? You want to rent it out to a tenant to make money, and that's fair. Okay, now when freehold came in, there was no regulation on the rental, or the tenants had rights, but you know, it was difficult because Dubai was going through this amazing exponential spurt of growth, and you know, to regulate that was not going to be so easy. And this is essentially technically actually happened. Okay, so there would be a property, and a tenant living there, but rents are skyrocketing like this, okay? And let's say the tenant's paying X amount of dollars for the rent. Landlord would sell the property, but rents in all similar properties are here. As soon as the landlord sells the property, the new landlord would come and say, either you pay me more money or you leave the property. And this could happen like 2 or 3 times within a 6 to 7 months period, or between 2 years period, 1 or 2 times, and then tenants became tired of this. So RERA, Real Estate Regulatory Agency, stepped in and they introduced something called a rental index to regulate rent, which is not the subject of this video, so I'm not going to talk about that, but that pretty much brought several amounts of equilibrium into the market and basically essentially managed the relationship, okay? However, notice how these buildings were owned by large companies and they had like maybe 20, 30, 2, 4, 5 buildings, and over here it's single ownership of property. In Dubai, essentially speaking, generally speaking, this is how a lot of owners are managing their property. They own 1 or 2 properties. They manage the tenant themselves. They don't have a professional company, a property management company managing it for them, okay? Or their agent who rents it out for them on a part-time basis works as their property manager. Now, because there is no professional relationship between to facilitate the relationship between the tenant and the landlord, the tenants at this stage have sometimes issues with maintenance, getting their contract and paperwork in order, with the reminders on renewal, all the other stuff, which over here, generally speaking, is not the case, okay? Because remember I told you there's a team that's managing all of this? Now, here, where there's several owners for several different properties, things aren't always as smooth as possible. So what's happening in the current scenario, okay? Now, here's the thing. If you have visited Dubai and you want to live in one of these happening new master plan communities, or in Dubai Marina or Emaar Beachfront or Arabian Ranches, you're most likely going to have to deal with this, okay? You're going to have a single owner whose tenant you're going to become, okay? Now, it's going to be like kind of like the luck of the draw, or if you've got a good agent, he's going to help you select a good tenant, okay? This is what's happening, okay, in this market. The freehold areas where there's several different owners, they are now starting to engage property management companies like ours, to manage their properties properly, okay? That's happening. What's also happening is these guys, the big guys, for their portfolios, are starting to realize that tenants are customers, whereas before they had this large swath of customers just coming to them, they started to realize that we got to go out, we got to modernize, we got to really attract these customers to come to us, okay? What's the solution, okay? In Dubai, every time the rental renewal comes up, people get stressed. Landlords sometimes stick to the law, sometimes they try to break the law. If you want a stress-free experience of renting in Dubai, my suggestion is you go and find one of these large companies that manage several properties. And even with that, it's not always smooth sailing, because you got to remember the management team that's in place, how old it is, how professional it is, how nice they are. Do they offer you coffee when you go in for your renewal, right? It all varies. I would suggest perhaps you use one of these as an ultimate solution, okay? That's number one. Because there'll always be, it's kind of like, a regular business. So they run it as professionally as they can, okay? Now, if you're one of the people who say, no, I want to live in a certain area and these large companies with large portfolios don't exist there, then there's a few things that you need to do. First of all, just like the landlord expects to get a profile of the tenant, you need to get a profile of the landlord, okay? I know one person, he told me while we were having, okay, we don't need to name it, but he essentially told me my tenant's been out of water for 2 days or 1 day, but I'm trying to fix it. I'm trying to send a maintenance company. You need to interview the landlord and understand where he is, who he is. Does he have a property management company in place? If he's got just this one property, he's going to try to squeeze every penny out of it, maybe perhaps not be very prompt with maintenance. But maybe he's one property and he's an amazing person. Try to get an AMC, an annual maintenance contract on the property, so that you just don't have to run after the landlord. I would even, as a tenant, pay a little bit extra just to make sure you get this. So if it's 7,000 or 6,000, maybe you pay 3,000 and let the landlord pay the balance amount, okay? And I would suggest that you meet the landlord. Now, we're not at that stage in Dubai where landlords can ask tenants for their credit history or a reference letter from their previous landlord. I think it might not be a bad idea for that to catch on in Dubai. And we're not at that stage where you can ask for a landlord's credit history or his previous tenant's recommendation. But you got to do some due diligence, and the agent who's helping you has got to help you move you in to the right place where you're going to be safe, secure, and happy. All right, happy days going forward. Hey, come on, man, give me some love. Hit the subscribe button, press the bell icon. It helps me get the word out to others who might be just like yourself, looking for valuable, perhaps important content. Ciao for now. Bye.
Okay guys, so thanks for watching. My name again is Fahd Dawood. I've been doing this for 14 plus years. I started in 2006 in Toronto, Canada, and since 2007 I've been doing this in Dubai. I generally talk about real estate, your life, my life, and our path to allowing financial bliss coming to us. If you want to work with me, such as buy a property in Dubai, or you need general advice, you can hit me up on in the contact form below. If you've liked this video, I'd appreciate if you subscribe, press the bell icon, and hit the like button and share it with other friends. Ciao for now.